Another way you could think about light in this movement through the medieval period to the Renaissance is how it appears in painting. Um, we know at the towards the end from our Da Vinci readings that the technique of chiaroscuro uh, was something that was developed and refined in this period. And of course, we get a lot of the you know late Renaissance, early 17th century paintings who really kind of utilize this and the appearance of darkness and shadow in Titian and Carracci and Caravaggio, all of these things in the late period, and then the image of that Dr. Banu put up with Hieronymus Bosch. So another way we could think about this tracking of the metaphor of light is look at the paintings from the early period, um, which are flat. And so that's another way to track it is through the use of space and perspective that is developed over this period. But also that light kind of is everywhere. There is use of shadows and things like this, but that part of the flatness is not just the absence of the development of perspective, but part of the flatness is the kind of whitewashing, light washing of the space there. Because, and again, this stuff wasn't necessarily conscious, but again, this is some of the creative ways that perhaps we could make the connections between the philosophy and the art. But that light was everywhere, which is another way of saying that God was everywhere. Um, but it's interesting because the development of perspective and the use of light and those great chapters in the Da Vinci reading on how you create space, not just by perspective, but by the blurred image, by certain changes in color, where you place it on the canvas. So you can create space in your shading and your color and how vivid or clear you make the image. But one way maybe we could think of this is that this development over time of greater realism and greater perspective in the icons of the very early period, they are flat. So it is a pure symbol that points to the divine, that reminds us of the divine, but at the same time, it draws us in. But because it's flat, because it's not realistic, it also pushes us away. And so there is this kind of, I think, aesthetic, working out of that paradox and contradiction of that we are here and we are not there and we are fallen, but at the same time we should always be reminded to go beyond that. But there still is this barrier between us. Whereas as the use of perspective, the use of light, the development of chiaroscuro occurs over history, we get this continuity, right? This continuity between the profane world and the sacred world, where we're almost drawn in, and it becomes more real, perhaps if we're thinking in Platonic terms, more dangerously seductive, right? Where we're kind of drawn into that world, and the lines between the sacred and the profane start to blur.